Episode 104, sponsored by Ruddy Lad Premium T-Shirt. Tonight we have Missouri grapplers Travis Conley and Devin Pirata. Let's do it. Hello, folks. How are you? Welcome back. Episode 104, again, sponsored by our friends at Ruddy Lad Premium T-Shirts. Check them out online at ruddylad.com. Thanks for sponsoring us. I don't have one of those T-shirts on. It's in the background. Sometimes I just don't have one there, but I'll get one on later in the episode. Tonight, folks, we got a fantastic episode. Let's get right into it. Two guys that have actually come up here to Nova Scotia and compete. Two fantastic grapplers, leader in their community down in Kansas City, a little bit south of us down in the United States. Two guys who, when you deal with fighters like I have for a number of years, these are two guys that kind of come to mind as favorites to me because they're just so easy to deal with and wonderful people behind the whole fight atmosphere. They embraced it. They really, they're motivating people and not, that's something that's really, really big for me as a promoter. That's what I really look for. And I learn a lot from people like that. So I'm really excited to have both of these guys back on. Let's get into it, I guess. First of all, Travis Conley, we'll get him on first. So Travis Conley, he's a 10-time IBJJF medalist. He's the owner of the Underground Gym down in Kansas City. He's a guy who's a former professional wrestler. He's been competing forever, and now he's obviously, for the last number of years, his big thing, health and nutrition. That's his background, and he's been helping thousands of people shed thousands of pounds and kind of eat healthy and stay healthy and get in better shape, which is super important right now, obviously. So, and all the time. So let's bring him on without further ado, Mr. Travis Conley.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us. How you been?
Good. Been good.
Good. Awesome. Well, let's bring your compadre on there, Mr. Devin Pirata. So Devin, again, an American national no-gi champion, a Pan Am's no-gi champion, now a black belt, training out of the Body Fit Club in Kansas City as well. You guys came up here from Kansas City and just put on an absolute show, two fantastic matches and great guys. So Mr. Devin Pirata, how are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
No. Thanks again for joining us. I appreciate it. Both of you guys were a hell of, like I said in the pre, I don't know if you call it a pre-show or whatever the hell you call it, but you guys were great to deal with, man. And it's true, right? Like that's what it's about, man. Like now you're obviously, Travis, you got involved in promoting a way back, and then you got involved now, and you've done shows.
I was gonna say that when you were talking during that intro, saying how we were easy to deal with. I did a couple recently. It was called the Ultimate Absolute 2 years, and like I've told Devin this too. It's like there's either there's two types of people. Either people that are like super easy to work with. They're like, yep, just tell me when and where, or they ask a ton of questions and they don't really want to do it. So it's pretty simple. Like it's either one way or the other. So to me, it's easy. Like you either want to do it or you don't. So
yeah, that's interesting you say that, because maybe that is the whole idea, and I never kind of clicked into it, Travis. It's like maybe that's why they're asking, because they're trying to get out and trying to find an excuse that they don't want to compete, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Like you look at the people that are hard to deal with, they ask all these questions, they make all these stipulations, and it's just like, I don't know, maybe we're different, or I don't know, speak for myself, but I like to compete. And I don't care what the parameters are, what the rules are, or whatever. I just like a challenge. I like to compete. Yeah. So
I love that. Well, that kind of brings me to my first question. Travis, you obviously been involved in wrestling your whole life. Devin, your story is a little bit different. You obviously get into it. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You got into it. You were in a little bit of trouble in your youth, and then you kind of switch gears, and you're like, I need to make some changes here. And look at you now. The book is written.
Yeah, when I first started training, we could really only fight MMA. So I actually had a couple fights first when I first started training before I really started switching into the jiu-jitsu mode. But yeah, before that, I was dealing with a lot of my own personal troubles and demons, and I needed a better way to deal with those things because I wasn't dealing with them well on my own. So starting to fight and then ultimately rolling into jiu-jitsu has definitely straightened me out for sure.
Yeah, that's it, man. Like youth, like we all, like I struggled super bad with ADHD and like focus. And it's funny, like I was an athlete or whatever, but jiu-jitsu for me, I can get out there and nothing matters, right? That's the whole idea. You're not focused on anything else but trying not to die for the most part.
100%. Yeah, your 100% focus has to be there when you're training, when you're competing. You can't really have any outside influence when you're doing that. So it really takes you away from anything you got going on in your life. You just focus on jiu-jitsu, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And Travis, so is that right? Wrestling for you?
Yeah, I grew up wrestling in high school, and then I took a scholarship from Harley Race and went and professional wrestled while I was in college. Bounced at the bars, was wrestled for like 3-4 years, and then I got injured pretty bad. My shoulder, I had to do like, just short of like a reconstruction on my shoulder, and then and in that year I was rehabbing. One of my buddies in college who I bounced with was like, "Hey, come do some submissions with us," and we went and rolled around, and that's the kind of the style of wrestling I liked. Was in high school, it was always unnecessary roughness or like penalty, illegal holds and penalty points, and I didn't ever understand. Like, I'm like, man, if he can't take it, like I should win, but
Totally.
that's not in the rules.
Yeah.
So when like jiu-jitsu came around, I was just like, this is perfect. Like, this is the style of wrestling I love.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it.
And you've been involved in Sambo and Greco-Roman. Like, you've competed at a high level in a lot of different martial arts too.
Yeah. That's just part of that challenge thing I was talking about earlier. Just different rule sets fascinate me. I mean, even within jiu-jitsu, I mean, there's so many different rule sets. There's gi rule sets, there's no gi rule sets, there's ADCC rules, and I don't know. I've never been a believer in just being good in one rule set or like one style. Like, to me, if you're good, you're good, and I don't know, push yourself, like see how good you can be type thing. But I did a little bit of judo, and then like it's just kind of luck. I don't know. Got into Sambo and got to compete at the World Championships in Sambo, which I knew would be like 100 times harder than the qualifier I did. But it's just cool to do those different things and see like what your jiu-jitsu does in those styles, or like like with fighting, like Devin was talking about, like in old style jiu-jitsu, it's like you use jiu-jitsu to prove it in the cage, and I feel like that's kind of lost sometimes nowadays, and that's kind of where I went with it. It's like, can you use your jiu-jitsu in every atmosphere, in any environment,
Yeah, that old school Gracie challenge kind of type environment. It's interesting because, so Devin, when you came here to compete, and Travis, you were probably injured too. Like, you were probably injured in some way, shape, or form. But I know, Devin, you were quite injured. But I don't. Well, I could correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't really know, but I believe you had a super bad thigh injury or calf injury before coming to compete.
No, it was a knee injury, but that didn't really. I don't want to say anything like that.
No. I don't mean like that. Yeah, just an unreal match. Unreal.
It's nothing that's like out of the ordinary. If you're training hard and competing hard, like, you're going to get bumps and bruises.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It wasn't like it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything that affected the match at all. It didn't affect the outcome. Everything that happened was going to happen no matter what. So, but nothing out of the ordinary.
That's kind of what I was getting at. That's why I meant it like as in, I'm always amazed at people who can step up to the plate. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like you just said, Travis, it's either you want it or you don't.
Yeah.
And lots of people could have made tons of excuses and not did that, not flown to Nova Scotia and did that like you guys did, man. So that's, to me, it's utmost respect, pretty badass. I thought it was fantastic fight. Both of you guys came and brought it and had fantastic performances. I love that. And then you also sent me a really nice, wonderful, heartwarming message, Travis, afterwards. And it just, that's why you do this kind of stuff. It's certainly not about money. I can tell you that. You guys know that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's about getting those cool experiences and meeting people like you, and like you said, just fighting your heart out, grappling your heart out, whatever you want to call it, and putting on a show. To me, it's like that was one of the most fun times I've had, going with Devin and going to a new city and new crowd. And I mean, everything was just, and then the production, and
Watching Diego Sanchez fucking lose his shit.
He was definitely fun to be around.
Oh,
I enjoyed that experience.
Brian McLaughlin was better though, in my opinion. He's awesome.
He was pretty. He's straight to the point, straight shooter. That fella, man.
Oh man, it was awesome.
The stuff he would say and do, because we stayed right across the room from him, and we were walking out, and it could have been 2:00 in the morning, and he's blazing Weezer and screaming the song, and just the stuff he would say. It was absolute. The whole trip was absolute gold. But yeah, being around him was even better.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard this story, but we were backstage warming up, and he obviously has I think everybody deals with a certain level of competition anxiety, especially right before, and nerves, all that same stuff you hear about. And you could tell he was really nervous, and he was talking to nobody in general. So he's just nervous talking out loud, and he was just he starts shadow boxing, and then he's just he's I don't care. People talk about not. What are you going to do? You're going to throw a punch out there? He's I'm not going to go out there and do squats or do jumping jacks, but people do that to warm up. He's I want a shadow box. It gets me warmed up. And he's just going off. And I was
who was questioning him? Who was asking him?
Nobody. He's talking to nobody.
Yeah, nobody
shit.
Asked. He just started telling us. Yeah.
He just starts talking to nobody and everybody at once, and I was you know what? That's a really good point. If it warms you up and makes you feel good, then yeah. Who's to say you're not gonna? And then he goes, who knows? I might throw a punch out there. You don't know that.
The way Wacker was staring at him, I thought they were gonna legit fight. They had a really heated stare at him, man. But it definitely didn't end up in a crazy.
No. Brian McLaughlin, not Wacker.
Yeah.
What were you guys just talking about? Brian or Diego?
Yeah.
No, Brian. Yeah.
Oh, Brian. I thought that was Diego.
No.
Shit, no. Brian did that.
No.
Yeah, you said Diego, and I was no. I'm he was crazy, but it was even crazier, and we got more enjoyment out of it with Brian.
Although awesome. Diego wearing the Mr. Donaire hat at the after party and screaming at the TV he was next to his teammates when we watched UFC. He was screaming. It was great too. But Brian stole the show on the craziness.
Brian wasn't there at the after party or what?
No, he wasn't. But we stayed right across the way from him. So we trained with him beforehand and just talking to him. And every time we come out, something weird would be going on, or he'd have something crazy to say. But it was just a great time. Yeah,
he's great. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, it was a great group of people, really high level. A lot of great people from all over North America. It was a really fun weekend, I thought, and. I owe a lot to you guys for making that trip and coming and competing for us. A lot of people, some people are oh, you're flying. I'm I'm not flying half these guys. They're getting here themselves. They're spending the money. They're training. They're putting in the time to come here and experience what we're doing, right? We're all putting it together. That's why people are oh, Kat, not everybody, but some people are oh, Kat, you're doing, it's fuck, you have no idea how much dedication this takes from everybody.
Yeah.
No one's getting paid here. Fighters, promoters, whatever. It's just a love of the whole game.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was awesome. It was the whole trip in general, just the experience, like you were saying about dealing with people. I look at it as the opportunity I got from you to showcase my skills and face somebody I've never met or competed against before, and you're displaying it all over the world, and just the hospitality you showed us and the whole town in general, and being that far away from home, the whole aura, the whole part of it was nice. All of it was great.
So I appreciate that. Now let's segue, because both of you guys have, you do your own events, you compete, you've competed Fight to Win, high level events. What's the difference? To me, I look at Fight to Win, what a beautiful production they put on in some big venues, man, with lots of people. Has it changed your mindset in any way? Or you
what do you mean?
Are you still do your nerves change with more people, the bigger the production, or do you look at it kind of the same as, okay, well, I did it at Chokes, even though it was 200-300 people, it's pretty much the same thing.
For me, doesn't matter. I used to wrestle in front of huge crowds, and I don't know. It's never really affected me. I just enjoy being in front of a crowd, and I mean, just putting on a show. So, I mean, when I did a couple dark matches for WWE, and I wrestled in front of 12,000 people. So, and I've kind of always just been in front of people competing wrestling. So To me, like your show was like a fight to win, if not better in some regards, honestly, because I don't know, the matches were more competitive and just top to bottom, just the production, everything. It was awesome.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's funny because I don't know. It's to me like sometimes I look at it and I'm like, how do these people have such streaming issues all the time? Like, we're like, what the fuck? Like, we're in little Nova Scotia. You guys been to our town? Like, if we can fucking figure it out, how can you figure this out after this years of this shit?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's weird. I don't know, but what do we know?
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's funny. Flo, man. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about them. I have not, like, to me, I think it's great what they've done, but it's always amazing to see all these random people who are like, fuck Flo, fuck, like the politics in the sport are crazy.
I just reffed this Saturday. I went to Des Moines, Iowa and reffed a pro show up there. Really, like the guy does a really good job. It's called Subspectrum, but one of the announcers had a shirt on that said "fuck Flo," and I was just like, man, like,
is that Josh? Know.
No, it was Leduc. This guy named
Josh.
Was it Josh? Yeah, I don't know anything about him, but I just know him from that event. Whatever, but
that's so that was Jordan.
Peitzman.
Yeah. Did it go well?
Yeah, it went really well actually.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah, he's got a lot of passion, and he does a really good job with. He just loves the sport, man. So he puts together some really good matches, and he works his tail off, man. So just like you, like I don't like go and do these things for just like anybody. They gotta be good, solid dudes. So he's one of them.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him. That's good, man. Well, it's important that people are putting events on still, right? Like, so what's it like for you guys? Like, I always get this screwed up. Don't shit on me here, but I know obviously is for anybody here in Canada, we know the United States geography pretty damn well. I got to say, much better than a lot of Americans would certainly know Canadian geography. Just because we're inundated with American television, right? That's just what little brother, right? But for us, like, so Kansas City, Missouri, and then so Kansas City is a city in Missouri, but also is on the border of the state of Kansas and Missouri.
So correct? I'll simplify it. Like everybody thinks that because the name is Kansas City, so you think of the state, but Kansas City is almost like, I don't know, what did you say, Devin? 80-90% in Missouri. There's a small, like there's this one county in Kansas City, Kansas, but honestly, it's not like when you think of Kansas City at all, that's not it.
It's like a industrial area. It's really not like when you see Kansas City in movies, TV, anything like that. That's all Missouri. That's all the Missouri side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it really throws me off. So is Missouri better or Kansas better?
Like Travis is from Kansas. I'm from Missouri, but I'm going to say Missouri no matter what.
Travis?
Like when you talk about the city, like Missouri for sure. And I've lived in Missouri since, I was 18. So, I mean, I've probably seen more of Missouri. Kansas, honestly, if you talk like, I don't know, geography, like economics, like Kansas City's like it for Kansas. And like I said, like only a small portion of that is there. Most of Kansas is like small town. I mean, wheat fields. It's there's not a lot in Kansas, so it kind of depends on what you're talking about. But yeah, that is my birthplace, so I'm gonna say Kansas.
I like it. They're torn. I like it. We got a 50-50.
There is a border war though with the colleges, like KU and MU, and it's like huge with the colleges.
Really?
Well, people get caught up on that like a ton. And even if you look back through the history of Kansas City, there's always been like a weird border war between Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah.
Really? So like in what regard? Like what happens?
Oh gosh, I don't know. You'd have to look up.
Jamie, look that up. Look that up, Jamie.
Yeah. We have like Joe Rogan where the guy looks it up.
Come on, Jamie. I need a Jamie. Instead, it's me live trying to do it. But yeah, we'll have to figure something like that out and do some history. It's I also did a little research on Kansas City, and you guys are famous for your water fountains.
Yeah, that's a funny thing too.
A lot of water fountains, barbecue. Barbecue's a big one for sure.
Yeah, barbecue would be very good down there,
Yeah.
I would think. We have a lot of barbecue restaurants up here now too. Shout out to our sponsor, Old Road Barbecue, but it wouldn't be like yours. He's
Yeah.
from Kentucky though, so he'd be doing it right. But
Yeah.
it's hard to get authentic stuff for sure. I'll trade you. You guys send some barbecue, I'll send some lobster back.
Oh yeah, man,
Yeah.
man, lobster. That town, man. There's another thing I think about when we were up there in Peak too. Speaking of lobster, I don't know if there was like a lobster season or whatever, but if there was a cat walking around, it was like big old plump cat that you could tell was eating some sort of lobster somewhere. Every cat I saw, everything, any restaurant we passed, it was everything lobster.
Yeah, lobster. That's lobster season. Just when you guys were, well, lobster season would have ended. I guess it ends in just the beginning of June, I believe.
Okay.
They start in the beginning of April, and they go for 2 months, I think it is. But,
yeah.
Hard work out in the middle of the night kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
I have a good buddy that actually owns a boat and does it. It's pretty funny. So, what have you ever been out fishing? Like you guys have obviously done like tons of fishing, but I mean like fishing like on a big boat.
I went once deep sea fishing, but that's it.
Yeah.
Same for me. I went one time when I was younger, and I was actually the only person. And I love fishing. I fish a lot locally, but not much deep sea. The one time I went, I was the only person on the boat not to catch anything. So can't really say I've done much deep sea fishing.
What do you fish down there? Like, see, to me, Devin, I'm terrified of snakes. I'm terrified of snakes. Is there snakes?
Yeah.
Tons of snakes down there.
Oh yeah, tons of snakes. Lots of snakes, and especially when you get out until like we go into the backwoods and there's water moccasins and whatnot. It's always something you have to look out for sure. But I haven't dealt with too many snakes, but I fish for mostly bass here. You fish for catfish, you can fish for all kinds of stuff, but I'm big into the bass fishing, largemouth bass.
Interesting, yeah.
Not to segue back, I looked it up real quick because I was curious, but
nice.
The Kansas versus Missouri, it has to do with like the Civil War and Missouri being a slave state, Kansas almost being a slave state, and there's like Breacher's Bibles and stuff, or John Brown down in Kansas and stuff. Like it's that period of history where that rivalry started.
Interesting.
And I think it's always just continued.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the difference between us up here right now and you guys. Like it's hard to believe, truly. Like how are you guys feeling about the whole thing and how everything's been going on in the United States?
You go ahead.
It's crazy. I try to just go it like as a more sensible approach. Like to me, we need more empathy and compassion just with like on all sides. Like, I mean, we need to empathize with cops. We need to empathize with, Black people, like everybody, I think so many people like draw these lines and then it's like, you're either just draw these hard lines, man. And it just, to me, if people would just think about, put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a minute, like it would be a lot easier. But I don't know, man. It's hard to say. Like there's just so many different opinions, and people are so volatile and angry. And I mean, some of it's justified, but I don't know, man. It's just kind of a scary time.
Yeah.
With that going on and COVID and the riots and everything going on, I just try to be the best person I can be. I mean, I don't ever want to, like, whether I think certain things about COVID or I don't, I follow the rules. I do everything I can to help out. I can only control myself, and I'm not going to put my views on Facebook or Instagram and attack other people for what they think, man. I try to be the best person I can be, and hopefully that rolls over into the people around me. But it's crazy times, and just try to stay positive and do the best I can to help everybody out, help myself out, stay out the way when I need to stay out the way, or do something when I need to do something.
Very wise words, guys. And it's true. Like it's quite simple when you think about it and how you just put it like that, like just be good to one another. But it's unfortunately so complicated. And it's, we're dealing with the same kind of thing that you guys are dealing, just on a little bit of a smaller scale, right? That's just smaller population, but it's, systematic racism, that kind of shit's been going on forever, and it needs to change. Whether it's never going to change without talking and getting the message across. And so, it's important whatever we can do to, and in regards to COVID, it's interesting down there because everyone's like, here, it's, I would say probably 90% of the country has really listened and wearing masks everywhere, like for the longest time. But down there, it's so divided, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty
I don't
crazy
know. I don't know why it's happened. Like, I mean, you've traveled I've traveled everywhere, and it seems like every other country has it figured out. And it's like I don't know why like wearing a mask became such a thing, like pro mask, anti mask. Like it's just insane to me. Like people trying to push like one way or the other on other people, and it goes to what Devin said. Like just worry about yourself and do the best you can do. And it's like. And you're not going to change somebody's mind, you know, if they believe in wearing a mask or if they don't believe in wearing a mask. I don't know. It's just
I like that though, what you
crazy.
said, Travis. You know, like we've kind of lost as a society, like put yourself in someone else's shoes and like a little empathy. Like you said, people draw hard lines, and myself either sometimes too, I'm guilty of it. Like if someone crosses you, like fuck no, you're dead to me. You know, but really it's like, you know what? Man, we're all on this goddamn crazy fiery planet going.
You don't know if somebody had a bad day or
it,
something happened to them
That's
or their previous experiences in life had led them to that point. You know, you may think somebody wronged you so bad, but like they're doing, you know, what they did in that instance. You know, you don't know what led them to that, you know. It's crazy. I don't know.
I like that though. It's, you know, just give somebody a little leeway. You know, if it's like if you were driving in the car, if someone kind of came in your lane, would you fucking smash the? Sorry, mom, if you're watching, I shouldn't swear. Would you pull your car and smash into them? No, you'd be like, oh, let's give them a little space, right? And that's a good metaphor, Travis. I like that a lot. Or I don't know if it's a metaphor or not. I mean,
well, driving is kind of the same with like social media. Like people act differently. In a car or on social media than they do in person, you know, like there's no, like it takes away the social aspect. Yeah. You wouldn't do some of the shit in a car that you would like if you were like walking down the street, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything in the United States of America in a car. Not a chance, man. That's a Canadian thing. When you go down south and someone cuts you off, you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks. I don't know.
Everyone's so polite,
man, or anything. Like it's different down because we don't have people like you can't carry a handgun up here.
Yeah.
Everybody's so polite in Canada, man. Yeah. It's just that's one thing we remembered too. It's like it was refreshing to go up there and just have everyone be so polite.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm not, man, and that's not by no means am I shitting on the United States with this conversation. I have a lot of great friends down there, and I think the United States is obviously the United States for a reason. You know, like everybody looks to the United States. You say what you want, but people when they're in trouble, who do they call? Well, you know, that's at the end of the day, you know, the leader of the free world. It's the United States, right? So it's us as an economy. I work in travel. Like people can say what they want, but we need the United States as a world, as a global world. We need the United States to come out of this and lead and like come out of it in a successful way. So it's important.
I agree.
It's really important. Like a lot of countries, a lot of the world depends on you guys, on you two.
And we can't figure out like a mask versus no mask debate.
Yeah,
you know?
that's our problem right now. Like I got walking into a store screaming that they don't want to put on a mask.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything's political down here right now. You're on one side or the other. So
the media, man,
we're hoping it gets better, like because it's an election year. Obviously, like I'm hoping it gets better after November. I mean, a lot of people are thinking that. So I don't, you don't know how much to believe, or you don't know what to believe, and you don't know how much to contribute it to that being an election year. How everything has something behind it. Like there's always motive behind everything. Yeah. So who knows, man?
That's very true.
So
it's so fucked too how they can be like, here, I'm gonna do this, and then they get elected and it's just like forgotten about. It's just total promise bullshit. It's I'm not shitting on all the politicians, but I'm shitting on all of you.
Yeah.
Every single one of you, because it's all bureaucracy. What do you do? Like there are good people in there, don't get me wrong, really good people in politics, but it's hard to change, like hard to fight uphill all the time.
What makes that all that hard is like when people revolve every aspect of their life around what's going on in politics and let them control their life. And so I'm saying, I try not to look at too much stuff. There's not too much I can do to change the outside world except for how I live my own life and try to shine a light on my own ways. But trying to let all this stuff that's like, let it control how you live, like your way of your living and your attitudes. Like it's a terrible way to live. So just not to focus on anything. Just things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. How we react to it is how our lives are going to be. So
Yeah, that's true, man. It'd be interesting if they took everybody's social media away for like, not like just for 2 days or 3 days. Take everybody's phone away.
Just
Like
do an experiment, yeah.
Yeah.
just to see.
But then that would be like,
You're taking my
socialism.
rights. You're
Yeah,
taking all my
yeah.
rights. No, this is volunteer, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't like we're not. Yeah, it's interesting, boys. Well, enough about that foolishness. Let's get back to jiu-jitsu quickly.
Yeah.
You guys are both, very successful black belts. You've been at this game for a hell of a long time. What's something that, like I just got my black belt last night and it was a,
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
thank you.
I didn't even
buddy.
know that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it very much. It's been a long journey. Like you guys know what the journey is like, and it was a pretty emotional day and night for me. And I'm almost like just kind of like, wow, it's finally here, right? And what was a big thing for you throughout your journey that really kind of kept you guys motivated and sticking to it? Obviously you love it, but was there anything else like that kind of just kept bringing you back? Was it the camaraderie, the friendships, the workouts, what was it?
I'd say all that, but one thing for me, like coming from wrestling and professional wrestling, when I started, like I didn't even consider it jiu-jitsu. I considered it like submission wrestling because growing up like as a Kansas like corn-fed wrestler or whatever, like martial arts were like kind of taboo, like BS,
Yeah.
and I didn't really believe in it. It's kind of, you're young and a little bit narrow-minded, but so when the guys were rolling like no-gi, I was just like, yeah, this is awesome. This is submission wrestling, and that's how I got into it. And I don't think I put a gi on for like probably 2, maybe 3 years. I didn't even touch a gi.
Wow.
And I just did no gi, and I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even call it jiu-jitsu. So I didn't even really know what I was doing to an extent. And then but I try to keep, you talk about motivation throughout. I try to keep that same mindset. So when I started, like my goal wasn't to be a black belt. Like I just wanted to learn submissions and get better and, learn the skill. So, rolling no gi, training no gi, there's no belts. I didn't know anything about the belt system. So like going through the ranks, obviously I like gi more now and I train gi all the time. Hardly train no gi. I try to keep that same mentality, like when you get caught up on stuff, it's like, man, when I started this, my goal wasn't to be a black belt, it's just being a black belt is a byproduct of all the training, and it's like to me, it's just a bonus. So, beyond the normal things you just said, as far as, the camaraderie, the friendships, the fitness, the hard training, that was one thing that sticks out in my mind that kept me going.
That's cool. I like that how you put that. There's so much to it, right? It's so diverse. There's so many different things, and I'm quite interested that you don't train much no-gi anymore. That's hard to believe, man. But I guess you've spent so much time wrestling, like you said. I guess it's.
Yeah, I like doing like no-gi tournaments or no-gi matches, but I don't know. I got a point there where maybe it's just how I was training. It just beats you up. Like you just go. It's like like when you take the gi off, you're basically wrestling, and wrestlers don't have long careers, like because you have to go hard and you have to wrestle when you don't have the gi on. So it's just, to me, it's a lot more taxing and it's faster, it's more powerful, it's all those things. I enjoy doing it, but as far as training it like day in, day out, I'd rather train gi,
Cool.
But I do enjoy it though.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I never looked at it that way, and it's like I know exactly what you're saying. How about you, Devin?
To be honest, when we first started, there was no black belts in town, so the belts weren't even a thing. Like the first time I started training, it was under a blue belt.
Wow.
And I didn't even think I knew the belt systems. But I think the reason why I still train, and a big reason why I did then is why I do it now, is what it does for me mentally. Definitely what it does for me physically, and how it rolls over into my everyday life. Like the challenges that has given me, the way it has helped me push through so many other challenges in my life. Like I continue to look to do that, to give myself like just to go through something hard and push through it and never quit. And just that whole aspect of jiu-jitsu, as time went on, I had personal goals, winning big titles, all that stuff. But that stuff would come and go. The competitions definitely helped push my level to get to a certain level. But it was just about the feeling I got when I trained, and more so teaching. Like I got thrown into a teaching role in jiu-jitsu as a blue belt. So now it's like, how can I, as much as it's done for my life, what can I do in my place to turn around and go find that person that was like me when I was 18? That was,
Nice.
you know, I just OD'd. I'd overdosed and I was in the hospital for a long time, and I needed this. I needed something, because the way my life was going when I was 18 was, I was probably, I don't ever want to say jiu-jitsu saved my life because I feel like it's super cliche, but finding a niche that kept me out of the bad spots that I was going to in my life definitely saved my life. It just happened to be, this was my niche. But I guess, you know, teaching now and trying to find those people, everybody, but really searching for those people that are looking for it, you know, they're lost. They don't know what they're trying to find. And I'm trying to find those people and give them their out and let them, you know, show them that there's better ways to live, and to you can do bigger things with your life. You just got to search out for that niche, I guess. So that's what keeps me going now.
Fantastic, man. Very well said, guys. It's so true. You know, it's like the sport continues to give back every time you train. You know, like you say, it's cliche, right? Jiu-jitsu saved my life, but it's so many of us, and it's kind of funny because it's like, did it save my life? Like, where would I be without it? But all of us that do jiu-jitsu, or I'm sure it's maybe other martial arts, you guys might know. I don't know so much about other martial arts if they're like this, but it embraces every aspect of your life. How you carry yourself, how you do everything is kind of revolves back to your training. It's weird.
Yeah.
No, I agree for sure.
I don't know. Are you guys always kind of on guard a little bit? Is that something that you guys always like? I'm always kind of like, I don't know what it is, but
what do you mean?
Like, you're just kind of aware of where you are, your surroundings, you know, like, I don't know what, it's just come from training. I always like my distance. I'm always like I'm just, fuck, you're never like, I don't want you to take my back, or I don't know. Maybe that's paranoid.
I think I'm definitely more aware of my surroundings for sure. But I think like I'm in control of that. Like, jiu-jitsu, like I got into a ton of trouble, ton of fights, all that stuff. So like it switched, man. When I started training jiu-jitsu a lot more, I got into it was like a lot less of things going on. I feel like I was provoking a lot of stuff happening in my life. Am I more aware now? But like I'm more aware of how I can handle things if stuff does the good. I'm not so worried, but yeah, I'd say I'm more aware like of what's going on around me. I think you should be, but jiu-jitsu is definitely helping that out, because you've got to be aware in jiu-jitsu of what's going on.
Yeah. I think, I guess I mean, like, you know, like I was like that, you know, young, you're drunk, you're out in those bars and you find yourself in these stupid situations. I guess maybe I mean more like that, like where you're just kind of like, you avoid situations like that. You become smarter, awareness, you know, like, just like,
definitely.
Mine came like, I think I'm thinking as you guys are talking, like I went right into professional wrestling, like right out of high school. And then I started bouncing at the bars. And so like, I was like thrown into like these crazy, I don't know, mature situations or whatever you want to call it, like at a really young age, like having to, like when Harley was brought up, he was like, there's stories of him being 13 years old, like running his family farm and then like fighting like grown men, like when he started into wrestling. And then in a way, like I kind of did that. Like there'd be guys coming to the gym, like crazy guys, like off the streets, who obviously like were a little like mentally off, or they just had no business like being in a ring. And they're like super fans, or marks they call them, and they just want to get in the ring and they want to start wrestling. And there'd be these top guys that I'm looking up to. I'm 18 years old and I'm like going through the academy, the wrestling school, and they're like, hey, get in the ring with this guy, like run him through some stuff. And I'm like, what, like me? I'm like, why don't you do it? You know, like you're the champion, you're the veteran, like I'm this rookie. And so like I'm thrust into the ring because I had like amateur wrestling experience, none of them else did. And so they were worried, you know, like what if this guy can actually, like the guy that came in off the street, like what if he does something crazy and hurts you or whatever? Like I had to deal with those people. And then bouncing too, like I don't know, I was bouncing at a college bar, so I was always like super aware of looking at people's body language, like reading situations. You know, I was never the drunk person, never, you know, so if that's what you're talking about, I think I've just kind of always been aware or on guard, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Again, you would have got a lot earlier from wrestling, obviously, you know, like you said, and what you experienced. Quite an interesting life you've had, Travis, and you know, everybody has this different path on life and in life, I guess, and it's like all three of us here have had a different path, and it brings you together. Like it's pretty neat how this sport can bring everybody together from different parts of the world. And one thing I want to ask before you get going, what's a dark match, by the way?
Oh, that's just a non-televised match. Like they'll bring in like when it's a traveling show, so they'll have it's like
Like a
in,
prelim.
yeah, like in fight terms, it's like a prelim that's not televised or whatever. It's not even on Facebook Live or whatever. It's not even like it's nowhere. It's just in front of a live crowd,
That's
so they
still
can get
pretty
a so they
crazy,
can get a
though.
look at you, and then that's it. Yeah. That's how they
Yeah,
see talent. They'll When they go to the certain towns, they'll have the local talent do jobs or do matches,
yeah. It's
for
funny
the
how
other
the
guys.
UFC has legit almost copied the WWEF
Yeah,
formula, like
I've
pretty
said for
close.
years they fit hand in hand as far
Yeah,
as like promotional business wise, but like they just like they don't want to like acknowledge each other, which is funny to me. But like you think
yeah,
about the UFC, it's prize fighting. You're selling a fight, like that's what wrestling is. Like you're just constantly selling pay-per-views and putting butts
yeah,
in seats and like I love the UFC. I love the sport aspect and everything. But at the end of the day, it's like it's fighting. You're putting two people in there, and as much as you try and make it sport like, it's two guys
yeah.
fighting in
It's
a
still a
cage.
fight. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty raw shit, right? Like,
Well, like the rankings and stuff, how they do the rankings, and they
yeah,
try and make it like the NFL and like have the guys wear suits and have this
yeah.
ranking. But then like number 5 will jump right over and get a title shot, and it's like, well, what do these rankings even
Yeah.
mean?
So at the
Like
end of the day, you're
I-
going back to the old entertainment, right?
yeah, it's like you're gonna put the fights together that make the most money and that what people want to see. So like, call it what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very true. It's kind of fucked up system for sure, in some ways. What I guess we got to wrap it up here soon, guys. But any advice for again, you guys have been at this a long time. You've competed everywhere at high levels. We deal with a lot of athletes that are just kind of getting into grappling, not so much getting into grappling, but like haven't competed like you guys have, or whether it's fighting, guys who are just stepping in for the first time. Any advice for people that are gonna do that or get into jiu-jitsu or fight or any of the
My,
above?
my advice is always like, and this goes back to your earlier question too on like motivation. It comes back to it is you got to have fun doing it. Like there'll be
Mhm.
times when you're training and you're not having fun, or you're not in a good place, like mentally or just physically, whatever. So you got to change your training. You got to do more drilling. You got to change who you're around. Um, have fun with it. Like my wife used to train, and I always told her too, like she felt like this immense pressure because
Mhm.
like she was basically marrying jujitsu, whatever.
Mhm.
And I always told her, I'm like, I don't care if you never train a day in your life. Like
Yeah.
to me, what's more important is like having fun. And I tell everyone that too, like my students and people, and you see people getting down, and we've all had it too, like all three of
Yeah.
us, like
Totally.
there's times when you're not having fun with it. So you got to do things differently to make it fun again. So that would be my number one advice to, anybody getting into it or whatever. And that goes, not to be cheesy or cliche, but that goes with life too. Like if something's not fun, like you got to make it fun. You got to change some things. And
Mhm. It's true, dude. That like I've had my up and downs in my journey. Like I said last night, like we all go, like there's so much shit that goes involved in this journey. You think about like 10 years of training, like to get to this, showing up, like how many people go to the gym for 10 weeks, right? Like it's a
right, yeah,
long haul to be
yeah,
able, like you say, the ups and downs and the shit that you go through. And such is life. If you're not having fun, that's great advice. Switch it up, do something different, and
yeah.
it's great advice, Travis. What about you, Devin?
For sure, definitely playing off of him, having fun, but go at your own pace and find your why you want to try it out, whether that be self defense, you want to compete, anything like that, and find the place that works best for you.
Mhm.
There's jiu-jitsu is getting so popular now. There's so many different places to train that take your time and really find your the place that you enjoy the most and go at your own pace. You
Yeah,
don't compare yourself to anybody else, your progress to anybody
huge.
else. Do your thing, go at your own pace, find the place that works for you. If you're going into a place and you got a bad vibe, like don't let that shut you off to jiu-jitsu. Try
Yeah.
another place. You know what I'm saying? You may not get a great vibe at the first gym. Don't let that be the reason why you quit. Find
Hmm.
your place, find your pace, and have fun, and obviously don't compare yourself to anybody else, your progress, and just stay on your own path. Worry about yourself.
Yeah, it's true, man. How many people? It's crazy in this sport. How many people compare themselves to other people?
Yeah, it's
That's
huge.
one thing that blows my
Yeah.
mind. I'm like, and I went through that too. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not lying. Like I went through that in my late blue belt stage. Like I thought, oh, I deserve to be graded. You know when you deserve to be graded? When your coach tells you.
Yeah.
That's when you deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Until then, shut your mouth and train. And that's the hard lesson sometimes you have to learn. And you know, it's I'm sure there's people out there right now going, oh, he sucks, he doesn't deserve it, he loses every tournament, whatever. But you know, like that's what you got to say to those people, right?
Yeah,
Get out the mats and train, and
Yeah.
you want to train under my coach, who's with hands down the best in Atlantic Canada, then come prove it, right?
Yeah.
So you know that's the way it is to me. But any shout outs, boys? You want to give any thanks to any of your sponsors, any of your students?
I'll shout out to Longboards. Like they always sponsor me with everything. It's a local wraps and bowls place here. They got like 6 locations here in Kansas City. They're good, solid dudes, and they're always like anything I ever need, I just call them and they like help me. So definitely shout them out. And then Defense Soap too. Defense Soap always helps me out.
Nice. What's his name? Rick?
What's that?
What's the guy's name who owns that? Rick? No, I can't remember.
Who? Longboards?
No, Defense.
Oh, Guy Sacco.
Guy Sacco.
Yeah,
That's right too. But Longboards, I remember them from when you competed here. They were really good.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of shout outs. Good
Dude,
people.
they're awesome. They're super cool. He's a big fight fan too, so he's a good fan of, you know, MMA and martial arts. He's Filipino, so
nice.
He's
cool.
He loves the martial arts.
I'll just shout out. I got my one main sponsor is Fuji Sports, and I just want to shout out my gym, Body Fit KC. The owner, David Vava, he gives me the opportunity to teach down there. It's got all kinds of stuff going on down there, but I'm the head jiu-jitsu coach down there. So I want to shout out my gym, Fuji Sports, and shout out to everybody that's staying up on these down times, man. Hopefully, you know, we make it through these times and we all get back to doing what we're normally doing before all this started. So, yeah.
It's. I wish you guys all the best of luck down there with what, you know, we've been back training now for probably 2 months, maybe 6 weeks, kind of thing. Back training.
Probably us too. I think mid-May.
Yeah. So hopefully it stays that way for you guys, and you know, the numbers are going down. So keep the faith. You know, we're going to get out of this mess, and just keep being great guys, leaders in your community. And you know, hopefully we can get you back up here for another match or something in the future. We're doing an event on October 24th, actually, and it's going to be in our cage because now we can't do any MMA events until 2021. So we're going to do another grappling event in our cage. So I'm quite shocked at how many people are like, hey man, I'll fly from California to come compete or whatever. You know, it's just like, I can't. Like, so if you come into Canada, it's a 2-week quarantine, but also if you come into the maritime provinces, the Atlantic provinces, I don't fucking know. Yeah, the maritime provinces.
It's like the time zone.
You have to quarantine again for another 2 weeks before you can do anything.
So 4 weeks. So 2 weeks in Canada and then another 2 weeks, so 4 weeks.
Yeah, like if you went to Toronto, you'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks. You could go and visit for a week, and then if you had to come here, you'd have to quarantine for another 2 weeks.
So if we wanted to come there, we'd have to stay in Toronto for 2 weeks.
No, you'd just come right to Atlantic Canada and quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you'd be good.
Okay. Gotcha.
Pretty inviting, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sounds like a fun trip. Yeah. Okay. No, it's we have a really old population here, and it's important. We've obviously done the right things. We have 3 cases now. I think we've had total maybe 10 cases in the last month and a half.
Wow.
So we've been doing really good. People are listening,
nice.
And it is. People, it's at the end of the day, politicians, like I was shitting on them earlier, but they do have a tough job. I wouldn't want their job, and I couldn't do it any better for sure.
That's what I think, man. When people are talking about they know the answer. I was like, dude, I wouldn't want to make those decisions. Because whatever decision you make, it's not the right one. There's no right decision, Mm-hmm. And I don't envy those people at all, like you said. No. So that's why I don't complain either. So
that's like I said all along here. I'm like, like Justin Trudeau, he's done a great job. Like he's protected our country. But at the end of the day, and they got money out to people who needed it right away. And it's like the premier here. The premier in our province actually is retiring now. He's like, I can't do it anymore. He's had a really rough year. Well, understandable, but so it's not easy. Like you said, I wouldn't want it, and So keep the faith, all you politicians, and just ignore me shitting on you. I'm sure you're really concerned about it.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Thanks so much for joining us. Lots of love to you guys down there and in Missouri. Keep the faith and keep training, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
man.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Congrats,
Awesome.
dude.
There
Thank
you
you.
have it, folks. Yeah, thanks again. Black belts for life. That was cliche, I guess, too. And tacky. I'm getting that tattoo right here. Yeah. All right, boys. See you later.
See
See
you.
you, man.
Devin Pirata and Travis Conley, folks. Fantastic guys, great ambassadors for the sport, and good friends. So that was fantastic to catch up with them. It's always good to get good chats with people that you really get along with in the sport and kind of on the same path and level as you. So that was cool. So we'll be back, I believe, tomorrow night with another episode, folks. Tomorrow night, we got a big one coming up next week. We got Mr. Gavin Tucker coming on the show. Mr. Gavin Tucker's coming on with Mike Malott and Pat Carroll. The Smash Brothers are going to come on together, as well as Mr. TJ Grant. We got him coming on next week as well. Really excited for that. And then a couple other great names as well, local, national, international, all that kind of fun stuff. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and be well out there. Be good to one another, and lots of love. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Be kind. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. As always, thanks to our sponsors, Conway Customs and Tinting, Beat It Sports Shot, Team NGR Sport, Maritime Madness, Old Road Barbecue, Datsu Sarah, BC Kimonos, Ruddy Lad Premium T-Shirts, Dragon Energy, Privateer, Harley Davidson,